touched the lake again. After some gap, we are resuming the usual 3 videos per month, hopefully. Kanshe Sergio Roger Rablane Mandaradan Lajunu Jindan, thinking Nuru Jimbas Zone, Belunam Kaintan, Kanjer Nepal, Jurab Dugaver, Bazimba Kaimba. Tetatum Jetarba Tambegur to be soon in Drije, Ladalamium, Wambodan, Jajin, Losuji, Chola, Chawajabanam, Sangi Son Rabradushi, Tebe, Jurur Batadashi, Temperature in Drije. Kanta Chuton Kitana, Dejelo Marjur Bakan, so that in the Tumbeji, Charbin, Bird, Batam Jedrije. Namo Laike than Ludaniji to Bunda the me, Janam down to a good Janam Jizambara, Tamjeke to Taki Chuten to Padenzavella Marumbuja Dagi Jurbe Meditation, Nicotine Bugunejus, the Guzun to Jumudu Saltus. Tabke to Jajaris to Dunjim to Jipunjum Bazar Julumbu, Tabraji Bugo Jajabish of La Chaza, Lo Zijawa Tamji, Shipumbo Chik the Sichukunji Pajurbe Jambe on La Chaza. Jambean la Jazalo Corvale to Taremato Taraya Chidur Navanam the Dumayum la Chazalo, Chaton Kolo Jebe Jabon Jendon Gabo Sambo Sangi Dongan la Cantu, Telater Tembatsumba Cheris la Chazal Seji Jawatam Jiji, Shipumbu Chikdumba, Sergilumbu Tabru Shipumbu Chikduba. Sergilumbu Tabugo, Jambe, Allah Chazalo Nalendaro to them sitting something Kalashi, Lashi Chawai, Lamandalan Chazalo, Nalendaro to them sitting something. Shivalashi Chawai, Lamandalan Chazalo, Nalendaro to them sitting something Kalashi, Shivalashi Chawai Lamadella Chazalo. Shechatam Jessibejan, but to Gunjeli to be to Jess a metal at the bottom of a jungle, a measure of local Shechatam Jessibejan, but to Gunjeli to be. Some metal at the bottom of a jungle, a measure of local Shechatam Jessibejan, but to Gunjeli to be to Jess a metal at the bottom. Jungle, a measure of local chance. So on the Just Shinchel of Shinam. Guru Pemas de Kusum Nama, Sojedoje Tala, Chotomunjungu Taldu so touch the leg, and I really hope that you are all you're doing well wherever you are. I really hope that you're healthy and you have enough resource to sustain yourself through this difficult time. And I hope that you have friends, you have families, you have good neighbors. Well, you have Buddha, you have Dharma, you have Sangha, always. You have your vows, you have your practice, and in some ways a bodhisattva is never alone. In some way, bodhisattva can never be helpless, So, I am sure wherever you are, your mere presence means that Dharma is still alive on this earth. So that's very valuable, and I value you for carrying this with you, for carrying the name of Buddha, for learning a text like this, I hope that by and by, with our efforts, we can make this text almost like a compulsory for all future Mahayana practitioners, that that knowing of this text becomes similar to knowing Buddha, becomes similar to knowing Dharma, Shantideva, with complete intention and only intention of benefiting us, you have to think like that he had the intention to benefit you too. If you really believe that someone who has gone beyond an ordinary state, who has reached or who has seen the wisdom, the ultimate Dharmakaya, someone like Shantideva, then you have to know that while he was composing this text, he knew each one of us that will read this text, that will reap benefit from this text. What am I saying? So, as Shantideva composed this text with sole motivation to benefit sentient beings and to prolong Buddha Dharma, to really strengthen the life force of this wonderful tradition of bodhicitta. And and it has been passed upon us by our teachers and their teachers and their teachers and their teachers, all the way to Shantideva himself. So a text has 10 chapters, as we know, and we finished a mammoth of a chapter, which was the 6th chapter, and now we will start with the 7th. The 7th chapter is dedicated to diligence or perseverance. I believe there was in some translation it's a diligent enthusiasm or something. Anyway, however it's translated. Here, Khenpo Kumpal and Lama Thamba Sonam Jansen both says, as is the way of our practice. That previous practices are the building blocks of the next practices. The previous practices are the foundation of the next practices. Previous practices are causes and conditions for the next practices. So first we learn about generosity, like making offerings in the second chapter. And with generosity, you learn how to let go of things, how to reduce attachment to things. When attachment is reduced, when we learn how to let go of things, then discipline becomes very possible. And then comes discipline. When we are disciplined, meaning we have less distraction, meaning we are trained in a certain level of austerity, and meaning we are trained in doing specific things in order to remove negative, harmful habits and adopt beneficial habits. In the Vinaya Sutra, discipline is sometimes called tulshuk. Tulshuk, the Tibetan term tulshuk, I don't know what is the Sanskrit term here. So tulshuk means tul and shuk. Tul means to destroy harmful habits, negative karma. Yuk means to enter or to adopt here. Adopt the positive, beneficial habits. So a monk or a nun or someone who has taken the vow of Upasaka, they let go of harmful things that they do, and they try to adopt, like not drinking, not killing, not lying. So now when one practices that, then one has now slowly one is generating this conviction that I have to remove negative karma, and I have to remove negative karma. Just physical discipline is not enough. I need a mental discipline, and mental discipline against mental afflictions, mental harm, like anger, like this desire, like all this. Among all this, anger is the worst. Desire is kind of taken care of when you practice generosity. Ignorance will be taken care of by all of the 6 paramitas, but especially the last wisdom paramita. Then anger here is taken care, should be taken care of by through diligence. So in the 6th chapter we talk about diligence, and now in the 7th we talk about the 6th chapter, we talk about tolerance, patience, tolerance. Lama Thamba Sonam Jansen says, I try not to mix Tibetan explanation, but these are some things that are very general and I don't see why anyone else would not agree to it, So, like he says, only when you can tolerate hardship, only when you can tolerate suffering, then you can be diligent, Because when you cannot tolerate suffering, you immediately let go of your practice, you let go of your diligence, your whatever, meditation, all of it. So he says, that's why tolerance is taught first, and then diligence is taught afterwards, So then here in that context we have the chapter of tolerance first, and then now comes the chapter of diligence. Okay, maybe I shouldn't open so many texts. So, chapter goes. Tetar zube chundru tsam, tetar chunla changjub ne, lungme yowa me bashin, sonam chundru me mi jungs. Thus, with patience, I will strive with diligence, for in such diligence, enlightenment is found. If no wind blows, then nothing stirs, and neither is there merit without diligence. So, so he says, this one is difficult, This one is really difficult. Diligence is difficult. He says, after having such tolerance, one can now begin to be diligent. Because when you're not tolerant, what do they say? Brittle spirit, yeah? Brittle spirit, like you give up easily. So when you cannot tolerate, you give up easily. That's what we do most of the time. So if you are a tolerant person now, you are, so you do not let go of the practice, even when you go through a certain amount of suffering, then you are now being tolerant. And then from there, you have the possibility to be diligent now. Why? Why should we be diligent? He says, well, whether you become Buddha or not depend on your diligence. He says, if you have diligence, you can become Buddha. If you do not have diligence, you cannot become Buddha. That's it. You cannot become enlightened without diligence, he says. And he gives example. Just as if there is no wind, just as when there is no wind, there can be no movement, of phenomena. Similarly, sonam tundru mimichungs, there can be no merit, there can be no wisdom without diligence. Now don't bring argument like, oh yeah, but in vacuum, are you saying in vacuum nothing can move? No, we're not saying that. What he's saying is very simple. Simple in a sense that the idea of what is wind energy, for anything to move, anything to move, there has to be wind energy, meaning the name of the wind energy is given to movement. People, we think that wind energy, many times we think that it's the actual wind that is blowing outside. Not really the case. That is also wind energy, but in its essence, wind energy is known as, is given name to anything that moves, anything that has the capacity to move. And this capacity is called wind energy, meaning if a phenomena would not have wind energy, it cannot move. Maybe we don't have to go into such essential details. Just as simple as without any wind, no leaves move. Let's say no animal, nobody shakes the tree, and there's no wind. So then the leaves and like a piece of paper outside, it doesn't move; it stays. Only when there is a wind, then it moves. So it's just as like very simple idea like that. So the next stanza, Zhenggang gela troao, te metun choksheja, lelo ngela shemba dan giluk dani nyepaus. Yeah. Stanza number 2. Diligence means joy in virtuous ways. Its contraries have been defined as laziness, an inclination for unwholesomeness, defeatism, and self-contempt. Okay, so in this stanza, he points 4 sort of contraries to diligence: laziness, an inclination for unwholesomeness, defeatism, and self-contempt. But if you look into the Tibetan, Tsongkhang Gilto, Ti Midunchu, Lelo Ngenla Shembatang, Giluk Tani Nyepaus. If you look at the Tibetan, and when you look into the commentaries, it's only 3, especially in the Kempo Kompel commentaries and stuff. Anyway, it's only 3, which is laziness, Ngenla Shemba nas, lelo laziness. Ngenla Shemba is liking, being attached to harmful things, bad things, harmful things. Giluk dani nyepa, and what is it? Having giluk, which is looking down upon oneself. These 3. I think this is the translation of Stephen Batchelor. He actually, his translation is really good in many points. So he says, the second stanza he translates as, what is enthusiasm? It is finding joy in what is wholesome. Its opposing factors are explained as laziness, attraction to what is harmful, and despising oneself out of despondency. Yeah. Also, in this translation, they use the term defined. Its contraries have been defined as laziness. Now, I don't know how this word is used in general English literature, defined, definition. But in the Buddhist literatures, scriptures, this term is taken very, very seriously. We define definition, we say ngo or tsenyi. So it's a very specific thing, and once you say it's like when we say it's defined like this, then it has to be this. It cannot be more than this, it cannot be less than this, it has to be exactly this. For example, what can be used as a the definition of mind, salching rigpa. Oh, this is a little bit difficult, I guess. For example, the definition of water, fire, or anything like a tree. Let's say water. Lunching sherva, that which is lumpa is that which is wet, and that which is capacity to make other things wet, or the definition of shing is a definition of plant. For example, what is the definition of plant? Then we say, that which has branches and leaves, so that becomes a plant, like this. So then as soon as you give a definition, then it has to be that, and it cannot be more than that. There cannot be, for example, there cannot be a plant that doesn't have such qualities, or the potential of such qualities, or like this. It cannot be more than that, or it cannot be less than that either. I'm getting carried away. Anyway, it's not so important, but that's why I like him, as he says, it's opposing factors. These are not definitions, just factors. What are they? So he says, I read again, what is enthusiasm? It is finding joy in what is wholesome. Its opposing factors are explained as laziness, attraction to what is harmful, and despising oneself out of despondency. Now 3, he narrowed it down to 3. And with the way the text is, I would stick with just 3. First, it says, what is diligence? Diligence is joy. Diligence is this joyful mind to do, something good. To this joy towards gewa is what is gewa, like merit, meritorious actions, virtuous actions. That's better. Like a joyful attitude towards virtuous action, like you are happy to do it, so this is definitions. Gewe lela toa, like this joyful mind towards virtue. So usually, when we say, that man is very diligent, that woman is very diligent, she diligently did that, like this. We do not see whether it is something virtuous or not. We just see, what we mean is that she put a lot of effort into it, physical effort, verbal effort. So that's not really diligence here. There may be diligence in a normal sense, but here diligence as a practice is not that. Diligence as a practice is this joy towards a virtuous thing, towards something good, So this cuts all the non-virtuous actions, how to say, joy towards non-virtuous actions or neutral actions, that. And then this side of the definition, joy, yes, this cuts mental and physical, this cuts verbal and physical action. This says, no, that's not really diligence. That is, that can be a result of diligence, and you can call it an act of diligence because it's a result of diligence, but it's not really diligence here. Here, specifically here, only here though, diligence is a mindset, he says. Diligence is a mindset of having this joyful attitude towards practicing Dharma, So as simple as this, if you have this joyful attitude towards Buddha, like you joyfully, like when you think about Buddha, you're filled with inspiration, and you like it, like you like the Buddha, you like the Dharma, you like the Sangha. That's diligence. Even though you are not doing anything physically, you just a couch potato, but you are being diligent in that moment. That so that is how to say diligence. Diligence is this joyful mind towards virtuous practice, virtuous, anything that is virtuous. So that this can be definition, but the next is not definition. Next is just it's that which is opposite to diligence, or that which is unfavorable for diligence is laziness, being attached to doing bad things, let's say bad things, like smoking, killing, I don't know what else, so many, basically most of the things that we do, giluk daninyepa, and the third is definitely we do that is out of from laziness comes this how to say mistrust towards one's own capacity, and think, oh no, I cannot do it, so you look down upon yourself. So these three. The third stanza, so now let's talk about the first sort of enemy of diligence is laziness, he says. First enemy of diligence is laziness. Just sort of this dull laziness, So how does this laziness start? Where does it come from? How does it start? Well, third stanza, a taste for idle pleasure and a craving for repose and sleep, no qualms about the sorrows of samsara, laziness indeed is born from these. So these are the cause of laziness. Laziness is born from these things. Stephen Batchelor says, because of attachment to the pleasurable taste of idleness, because of craving for sleep, and because of having no disillusion with the misery of cyclic existence, laziness grows very strong. I find it much clearer. Anyway, being lazy, nyomle, basically not doing what is right, not doing what you should be doing, just spending your days in idle activities. From there comes the addiction towards pleasure, pleasure, just simple pleasure, for example, of, like eating, and for that we spend so much time, and all that time spent when you could be practicing, but all that time spent where you have a specific wish today. You wake up, I wish to have a, like margarita pizza with fresh basilicum, green leaves, and black olives from Greece, with also, what is that? I forgot that the spice that you put in pizzas and anyway. So like this. So for that, you think like that. It's just a thought, and then you actually go to buy all that. You actually buy. Either you go to shop, either you go to a restaurant and order such a thing, or if you want to make it, then you buy the materials, and then you have to spend time preparing it. You have to spend time going to a restaurant and waiting for your order, and all that time is laziness, is the cause of laziness, or is laziness in itself. We will be wasting time. So that's what he's saying. Nyumle, meaning just from there comes this taste. You get this taste for enjoyment, So all of it is like that. Clothes, you want beautiful flowers around your house, so you spend the whole morning watering, weeding, like this. So most of our time is spent in this type of taste for enjoyment, and then half of our time is spent in this attachment to sleep. We really like to sleep. I don't know anyone who doesn't like to sleep. You need sleep and you like sleep. It's such an enjoyable thing. It's like Kempo Kumpul said, you enjoy it because all the chatter, of sort of this coarse mind, all this conceptual, phenomena, sort of, your thoughts basically, they cease for a while when you go to sleep, when you sleep and before you start dreaming, so we like to say that in between there is a sort of a not really clean state of mind, but a relatively clean state of mind, and then he says that is what we really desire, and it gives us so much joy. It's very enjoyable and we desire it, and it's interesting. But anyway, I was wondering how would a scientist, I don't know, I guess neurologists, who should be responsible for this? I met this young guy in India. Actually, he's a scientist from Bangalore, and his whole field is, of expertise is sleep. He does this research on sleep, and sleep and dream and the brain activities and all that. It was interesting. So I wonder, how would they differentiate? Can we tell just by looking at the brain activity of a person whether the person is unconscious or in coma or sleeping yet not dreaming, before REM sleep, right? They call it REM sleep. I don't know. I just wonder. And today my mind is very, very scattered. I apologize. Yeah. So then this. So because of these, because of being sort of very lethargic, like lazy, slow, because I don't know, you ate a lot, I don't know, and then this because of your craving to enjoy things, and then especially your craving for sleep, that you really like sleep, and in both of the commentaries they mention sleep and its sort of, how to say, supports like a cushion or bed, and pillows and blankets, So we really crave all this. Because of this, we will not have renunciation, he says. This will numb our awareness of the suffering of samsara. So we will not be bothered by it. So from these comes the laziness. From this comes the laziness, the state of laziness. Here, I would like you to think a little bit. Although here it is shown as if these are the cause of laziness, I wonder how much difference is there between laziness and these causes. For me, it seems like these causes are laziness itself, I mean, these are the laziness itself, like being attached to enjoyment, like delicious taste or nice clothes or whatever, praise from people and all that, and being too engrossed with your attachment to sleep and stuff. It seems like, that is laziness in itself, that there's no laziness, no separate entity as laziness as such, but it is, they are laziness. But anyway, it's interesting. Phenomena causes another phenomena in two ways, right? One is by being its cause, literally cause, like a seed to a tree, to a seedling, right? And then other way of causing it is like how each bricks in this wall caused this phenomena house. Now you look at it properly, these bricks do not create a separate entity as house, as a temple. They don't. That would be absurd, and then that would also mean that during the time of result, the cause should have ceased to exist. Usually it's like that. The cause should cease. The cause cannot continue while the result is there. Cause should exhaust itself. That's how it gives result. But here it's not like that. The temple is here, and the bricks and the walls and the paints that make the temple is also there. So this is also another type of, it's a pseudo cause and effect. It's not really cause and effect, but we can call it cause and effect, and many times we do, So I'm wondering, maybe this is also like that. So now, how to antidote? He says, how to antidote laziness then? What do we do? He says, well, how to say? Now the next stanzas are for that and that only. Nyamong jabe shonde ni chewe jane chujune chita khani song jurba chide tadu mishe sams. These are wonderful stanza for self-dialogue, self-conversation. Snared by the trapper of defiled emotion, enmeshed and taken to the toils of birth, again you have strayed into the maw of death. What is it? Have you still not understood? Enmeshed in the snare of disturbing conception, I have entered the snare of birth. Why am I still not aware that I live in the mouth of the Lord of Death? Okay, it's a bit similar translation. Nyomong, where is it now? Nyomong jabe shorninis. Nyomong jabe shorninis, meaning ja this net is thrown upon me by sort of the fisherman of affliction, so to speak, So the affliction is like a fisherman or a hunter. And the net itself is the net of birth. I am caught in the net of birth by this hunter or fisherman, the one who has this net. Usually what happens when an animal is caught in a net, like a fish, when we catch fish in a net, then it goes into the mouth of people. People catch fishes to eat. Similarly, the fisherman of afflictions threw the net into the water, and it caught me in the net of birth. Net of birth. It make me reborn. The moment I am born, I have to die. Birth comes with this ending of death. There's no way escaping that. So, chitak karni songchurpas. The moment I am caught in this net of birth, I have automatically entered the mouth of death, the mouth of the Lord of Death, so understandable. Jite tadum mishisams, he says, why don't you still understand it, that this is so, that your affliction very skillfully caught you, very skillfully very skillfully caught you in the net of rebirth and put you into the mouth of death, basically, of death. Why don't you understand that? He says. Rangde rim jisse bayan chuji tongwar machurtams. Wenja ni latemba kang dolbatane maheshins. This is really, really important. Stanza number 5. Don't you see how one by one death has come for all your kind, and yet you slumber on so soundly like a buffalo beside its butcher. So, around the rim just by and chuji tongwar majurtams. Don't you see that it is killing your retinue, your friends, your family, one by one? Don't you see that? Yet you sleep, you eat, you drink, and you rest. You waste your time like this, just as a buffalo behaves in front of a butcher. When the buffalo is well fed, the butcher comes every day and take one buffalo and goes to kill. And the rest of the buffaloes, as long as they are fed, they just stay there. That's what we think, that they don't understand what's going on, and they're just eating their grass and drinking the water and rolling around in mud. Similarly, that's what we are doing. This is a very simple yet a very vivid image. Think about your own family. Think back 10 years, 15 years. That's not so long compared to a human life. That's really not that long. And think about all those people that were alive then, and think about all those people that were not there yet, that hadn't been born yet. And now think about the people that are not here anymore, and think about the people that are here. And then it really seems like it's like traveling in a bus or a train, where at each different stops, different people enters and different people leaves. And in between the entering and the leaving, we are numbed with this exchange of the coming and going. Lamni kunne kaune su chidachi ni teshin du chidrachu ni zagachi didra nilog jidragas. Yeah, this is really good. Very simple and direct. All the paths of flight are blocked. The Lord of Death now has you in his sights. How can you take such pleasure in your food? And how can you delight to rest and sleep? Yeah. lamni kunne kane su chidachini teshindu. It's like how to say, let's say you're traveling somewhere and the enemy knows that you are coming there and they're waiting now. They're waiting for you. But it's not unknown to you. You know that. You know that's how it's going to happen. That there is no way out of this. There is no way out of this. This body. There is no way I can keep it forever. So, the Lord of Death, so to speak, has blocked all exit. There is no escape. Meaning, well, it's quite fancy to call it Lord of Death. Basically, what we're saying is that the potential of this body, the energy of this body cannot last forever. It is this amazing organism. Everything works in our body. Everything has a function. Everything. Skin, hair, nails, everything. Inside the fat, the tissues, my bones, blood, the organs like heart, intestine, of course. All of this, there's not one thing in my body, inside and outside, that's not useful, that's not functioning. And that's a mind, that's an amazing thing to wonder. To know, to realize. So then, of course, it cannot last forever. It consumes a lot of energy too. And it is this wonderful machine. But as every other machine, it has to break down one day. It breaks down one day. Not because it has to, it just do. That's what the Lord of Death is. The Lord of Death is the exhaustion of energy, exhaustion of this energy, this potential to go on now. So that's the Lord of Death. So he says, but as a simple external image for us is like this. Like you're riding a horse and let's say you're traveling towards one direction, and then there is huge sort of rocky mountains on each side, and there's no way but to go straight on. And as you go straight on, you know that your enemy is waiting there with a lot of weapon and to kill you, and you know that from there you will not be able to go one more step. And yet, but there's no way, you cannot go back for some reason, because the enemy is also coming from behind, let's say, because he says all the path is blocked, so that's all the path is blocked. So there's no way but to carry on and to meet the enemy face to face and to perish there. Knowing this is not just a hypothetical situation. This is what we are, the failure of our physical form alone is like these mountains in all directions that you cannot escape anywhere now. This, let's say, rocky mountains, like this. Anyway, let's not waste time now. Apologize. So, knowing that the Lord of Death, you see the face of the Lord of Death in distance, and you know that You know, even while knowing this, yet you eat, you joyfully eat and drink and sleep and roll over in your bed. He says, how could you do that? How do you manage to numb yourself to this extent that you see the danger that lurks ahead, yet you are completely unconcerned? Nyurwa nidu chijurwe jisitu ni tsoksa tetsu lelo panjani tumain barchishik chas. Because he says, now is the time to really accumulate merit. Now is the time to really practice dharma, to be diligent. Oh, I should read this first, I guess. Death will swoop on you. Death will swoop. Is it swoop? Swoop. Okay. Death will swoop on you so swiftly. Gather merit till that moment comes. For even if you then throw off your indolence, what will you do when there is no more time? Yeah. So he says, how to say, even before death, you may think, no, I will practice in my old age. Most people think like that. I practice in my old age, we always postpone like this. And I used to do that. I used to, as a teenager, when I entered the Dharma first, I thought, oh, well, I will really seriously start practicing after I finish the studies, in Dzongsa. That would be me in my 20s, But then in my 20s, I thought, in my 30s, I will be really have done at least, a couple of long retreats, maybe even a 3 years retreats, and so on and so forth. And till now, not really much done at all, nothing done. So like this. And now, even now, when I look at myself, I think, well, I have young children, and right now, sort of, I am trying to reach people, and like this. There's so many ideas, and I feel like maybe when I'm 45, 50ish, like this. So it's sad, but that's how it is. So this is what he says. You may think like that, but suddenly you will be seized by diseases. For example, let's say if you die by disease, and then you will quickly die after that. Once you're seized by disease, you lose your energy, you lose your sort of of course you lose your youth, you lose your vigor, and then you cannot practice. You're not like before, and then you quickly die afterwards. So right now, as much as you can, offer a flower, do circumambulation, help others, read Dharma, read Sutra, think about them, think about death, think about others, think about their situation, think about what can I do, think about what you wish them to have, like that, like practice Dharma. Think about emptiness, think about selflessness. That's amazing. Selflessness. I should think about selflessness. I myself should think about selflessness. That's important, because he says, at the moment of death, when you are, or when you are very sick, very ill and weak, and or when you're very old, deaf and blind and suffering from dementia and so on and so forth, then now I will practice Dharma. He says that's too late. You're weak now. You do not have the same energy anymore. And even if you try to do something, it's a very small result. Jishikchas, he says, what good will it be now? It's been too late. Apologize. Dini majet sambadan diche chebar nepala. Lubur chida honini chihu chom shisembarjurus. And in that moment, what will happen? This I have not done, and this I am only starting, and this I'm only halfway through. Then is the sudden coming of the Lord of Death, and oh, the thought, alas, I am finished. So, dini majid sampatans. So basically, well, this I haven't done yet, and I want to do it. I am like practicing Dharma. This I have finished now, which is the ordinary life, like finishing school, finishing college, finishing job, finishing, money, finishing life. And then there are practices that we have left halfway in between. There are many good things that we have left halfway in between. We haven't finished our ngondros, we haven't finished meditating, we have finished, taking so many initiations, yet we don't really practice them completely, so that's always like things left in half. And you still continue to do them slowly. So this is basically our life. Every year is like that. Every year we have agendas. I will want to do this, and that. So while we are in between of all this, death comes suddenly. And when that happens, you feel like it's not fair. You feel like you are robbed. Kihu chums, meaning you say, how to say, as they translate, alas. Kihu is meaning it's a term of a profound sadness. It's basically you wailing, you whining. Chum meaning I am robbed. I'm destroyed. I am finished. At the time because you feel it's unfair. You feel, but now I want to do Dharma, and when I wanted to do worldly things, I had a lot of time. But now finally, when I want to do Dharma, when I want to do something good, and death strikes me. I think this is long enough session. So I will pick two names, maybe only one name, since these days, as you may be aware, mine, Rebecca, our second daughter is born like a week ago, and we have been very busy with that. Newborn children, as much as joy they bring a lot of work. So of course that's not a valid reason why I couldn't produce teachings for the past almost 20 days, and for which I really apologize, and I hope that now we will be able to resume it, and before the end of this month I hope that I will be able to offer one more session. Thank you very much. And also we received a lot of email from basically answers replies about the issue of trainee. So now that is closed from now on. We have finished at least like half of the text or something like that, or at least in the numbers we are in the 7th chapter. So those who are trainees are trainee now, and those who are not trainees, now you're not trainees. But that doesn't mean that you start taking less responsibility. You start thinking that, oh well, I'm not trainee, and then start drifting away. Some people are doing this. Some people did this already, and I see some people are now beginning to do it. Don't do that. Study this text. If you study this text with someone else, then it's good. I don't mind, me or someone else, but please finish it. Finish this one at least. It's very important. We wonder when I read the sutras, or the tantras, sutras mainly, where Buddha is teaching, let's say, and then they say, as the Buddha was speaking, such and such hundreds of or thousands of beings reach the first bhumi, they reach the path of seeing. And in such moments I would rejoice, but also I would be very sad, thinking, how come this cannot happen with me? I have listened to so many teachings from great masters and hardly anything happened to me. I think by thinking like that, I'm being ignorant of the fact that these people for whom it seems so easy now that they just receive teachings and become liberated, have in fact actually practiced for many lifetimes, many lifetimes, and not always Buddha was there in front of them. Not always, they were great practitioners. They were like us. They read these, teachings of Buddha. They hear these, think about them, they meditate, and then comes a time when their merit has ripened enough that they finally come in front of a completely enlightened being like Shakyamuni, and the merit have ripened to an extent that each sort of physical feature of Buddha invokes wisdom in them. Forget about the teaching, just the face of the Buddha, just the scent of the Buddha. Buddha is supposed to have a very pleasant scent, or just the footprint of the Buddha. It liberates beings. And then people like us wonder, oh, it's so unfair. These people, they just hear Dharma and they become liberated. What about me? But, there has been a whole sort of lifetimes and lifetimes of struggle, of practice. And it's not even struggle, Reading this text, it's a pleasure. Actually. It's not a struggle. It's a wonderful, it's really... So what I'm saying is, even if you're not trainee, you're a listener, try to keep to it. Try to practice as much as you can, and don't drift off. Don't think that, I'm not trainee. Many new people joined, And we couldn't reply to almost any of you. Most of you, we couldn't reply. There are so many emails that we couldn't reply. Rebecca is now replying, most of you, and many new people have joined as trainees, and I welcome you and thank you. Congratulations that you trust yourself enough and you trust me, and that's good. Thank you. Sonam de tamjisi bonye tumne bedan pamje de chegan na jibalon sibezole do androver show chamju semju rumboji maji pan cheban nyamba me ba khon khon jambal bu jidar chamban da kundu zambo de ande jine da gunji jisudan gewa de da tamje rapto